Do you think that this market is hooked on outrage or negative news coverage, Anand?
Now, if you put the spotlight on 52 crore people and the Kumbh management at tent city and say that, they'll say, "Arey, जानबूझ के खबर छुपा रहा, खबर दबा रहा, Stampede की बात करना." You talk about Stampede, अरे news is selling only Stampede. कुंभ में 52 crore people there. All you are talking about is death. So इधर से भी ढोल बजाओ, उधर से भी ढोल बजाओ. And if the consumer is consuming negative news more than consuming positive news, is it the news channel to blame and the news platforms to blame based on the perception? Or is it the consumer to blame?
Dependent on government ad revenues?
For a news channel, it would depend on sources who will give me revenue. Now, whether it's a political party or a corporate, they will always say, we will pay you money, but terms and conditions are...
So where do you see the future of print media to be? Do you think it's a revival is possible, or do you think that digital will just take out completely over 10 years?
Print is dead. It is still active.
There was a lot of debate when it came out. India is ranked in press freedom below Afghanistan and Hong Kong. My problem is that it leads to monetary consequences of FIIs coming or FDIs coming into the country.
Frankly, when the court stopped electoral bonds, it opened the floodgates for black money to come into place. Bharat as an idea, Bharat as a nation, Bharat as its entity, and Bharat's rightful place in history and in the world is here, it's now. But bureaucracy is far more efficient than some of the other bureaucracies in the world.
And talking about sacking of bureaucrats, how difficult is it today?
See, they have made it in such a way that all netas will approve their pay hikes. See, power sometimes corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. What is the PMO today? The PMO is a huge...
So, hey Anand, I'm Rishi. I'm the host of Indic Diaries, and I would like to welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Rishi. Good to be here.
Yeah. Anand, actually, I met Abhijit Iyer Mitra last week. He was visiting Pune, and I had the opportunity to meet him. And in that, Anand is one of the very few good human beings, basically, that he knows.
And
yeah, I would just like to start with a question about the news market, Anand. So it's a market that you cater to, probably tens of millions of people, if not hundreds of millions of people. And it includes Indians, non-Indians, and it includes you, me. So understanding this market, and probably you understand it better, do you think that this market is hooked on outrage or negative news coverage, Anand? Because I have a perception that most of the news coverage out there is negative. And I also have a perception that this market craves some positive news coverage cycle from time to time. So where do you sit in this argument, and do you think it's largely negative?
Human tendency is that negativity sells. Okay. That's basic human tendency. You defined it as a market. So market has got a supplier and also a consumer. So who defines the market, the supplier or the consumer? So if it is the consumer who's defining the market, that's logic, right? And if the consumer is consuming negative news more than consuming positive news, is it the news channel to blame and the news platforms to blame based on the perception? Or is it the consumer to blame? If the consumer, so we, there is this whole thing about, everybody does it for TRPs. What are TRPs? What are you doing things for? You're doing it for views, right? TRP is television rating points. Rating points are determined by people who are viewing you. On the social platform, it is 2 to 4 seconds. On television platforms, it is 8 to 10 seconds. So somebody has to stick on to a television platform for a longer time than 8 seconds. Somebody has to stick onto your platform for more than 2 seconds to get your so-called views. You have absolute numbers because digital, capturing is absolute numbers. But the base for television is so vast and so huge, to have individual meters in everybody's home as television sets and to monitor every television set is not possible. And today news is being consumed not just from a television set, but from multiple screens. So TV sets are not platforms, they are just screens. So, and the same news is consumed via a phone, via a laptop, via a tab. It keeps varying. But at the end of the day, what are we consuming? Market forces. Who defines market forces? Market forces are consumers, right? Consumer defines what the producer or what the supplier is going to sell. If the consumer rejects negative news, do you think it's in the interest of any newsmaker or any news platform to put out anything that is negative? So the moment you turn the attention towards what positive, let's take the example of Kumbh. 2 related stampedes happened. One happened at Mauni Amavasya at the Ghat, where people ignored the warning calls of the local authorities and continued to sleep on the banks because they wanted to be the first to get into the dip at the Brahma. So when the barricades broke, people died because they were sleeping on the banks. They were not supposed to be sleeping, and people stepped over them. Now, had there been less people sleeping on the banks and had the banks been clean and had they listened to the authorities, we may not have lost those lives. But it is one stampede, 30 people dead. Another stampede happens at the New Delhi railway station because of the mismanagement of the railway authorities or wrong announcements or 2, 3 trains coming at the same time, all going to the same destination and everybody confused. And 30 people died. It's unfortunate, but Kumbh has 52 crore people. 52 crore people. 2 mishaps in 40 days. And the lives that are lost, your heart pains. Not a single life should have been lost. But tell me one other event anywhere in the world that has handled 52 crore people and has had 2 mishaps with a loss of lives less than 50. At Hajj, annually, so many lives are lost. Any other place where there is a huge conglomeration of more than 100,000 people, there is a stampede, there is problems. We have managed 52 crore people. Now, if you put the spotlight on 52 crore people and the Kumbh management at Tent City and say that, they'll say, "Arey, जानबूझ के खबर छुपा रहा है, खबर दबा रहा है." Stampede की बात करना. If you
Yep.
talk about stampede, "Arey, news is selling only stampede. Kumbh में 52 crore people गया. All you are talking about is death." You are deliberately trying to defile Kumbh and depreciate Kumbh. So इधर से भी ढोल बजाओ, उधर से भी ढोल बजाओ. Decide आप लोग कर रहे हो as a viewer, and at the end of the day, you're saying the media is negative. Now
Yes.
that's the pot calling the kettle black, frankly, and I'm very honest about this.
But Anand, so yeah, it's easy to criticize positive news coverage. I agree with you, but I wanted to understand
It's
the
not about
psyche.
criticizing positive news coverage. It's about not wanting to watch positive news coverage beyond a certain extent. So you want to watch at some points of the day, but I want to tell you what's gone bad, what's gone wrong. I want to feed on that. पड़ोस में क्या गलत हो रहा है उसमें हमारा इंटरेस्ट है ना. Our gossip is about who's wrong, किसने कुछ गलत किया. Our gossip is not about किसने कुछ अच्छा किया. How many of us sit down and gossip something nice about someone? It's always bitching, right? So that's a
Good point.
human tendency. That's a human tendency. So then to paint everybody on the same brushstroke, there are so many people who do such great news, positive news across the world. Do you know of a website or a platform called Better India?
No.
See, that's what I'm trying to say. Better India as a platform does only positive news. What's good about our country? You don't know about it. But I'll name 5 platforms which do all negative news because you're consuming it. So that's what I'm trying to say. So it's a reflection of us as a society. We look for positivity, we look for solace, we look for calm, we look for shanti and all of that. But all we want to watch is war. All we want to watch is crime, and all we want to watch is negative news.
But us as a society, so you think it's an Indian problem or do you think it's a global problem?
It's across the world. Humanity is like that.
Okay.
Humanity is oriented towards feeding on fear and living in fear. So that's the most basic of all instincts, and that's what is fed at all points in time.
Okay. And talking about this market, and you mentioned podcasts like me trying to get 2 views. Unfortunately, I'm not even able to do that, but fair enough. We'll see in the
No,
future.
but at the end of the day, your success is determined not today what's happening. Is your success being determined by the quality of work that you're putting out or the number of followers that you have?
Number of views that I get, yeah.
Are actors getting or people getting jobs or modeling assignments or acting assignments based on the quality of or the talent that they have or the number of followers they have on Instagram and on Facebook and all? So if everything quality is being being decided on quantity, so then who's skewing the metric?
The consumers.
Right.
But
Consumers and those who believe that consumers want only that.
but the point is that where does a podcasting, well, I'm a very small channel, but where does big podcaster or podcasting industry sit? Do they sit in intersection with the news market? Are they sitting in intersection with, let's say, the OTT web series entertainment market, or are they building, because the number of eyeballs and watch hours are limited? So where do you think they're taking the chunk from, or do you think that they're creating an industry of their own?
I think there is a space for everyone. I don't think nobody's pinching anything from anybody. Everybody's creating their own space because viewers also want to watch something different. See, today a screen gives me the luxury of watching content when I want to watch it. And it's in a personalized space. It's not in a commune space, community space. Why? Even the living room where you used to watch television together used to be one TV, the whole family, and the whole family had to watch what the matriarch or the patriarch or the boss of the house wanted to watch. Correct? So they decided, and everybody had to watch the same thing. Now that's not the case. Everybody has their own screen. They have their own space. They can wear in their earpods or headphones, and then watch it at a space area which is their own area. So nobody needs to know what they're consuming, and they can consume content at their pleasure, at their leisure. They can watch it at 5 a.m., 3 a.m., 2 p.m., 4 p.m., 6 p.m. while going in the metro, while traveling in the bus, or driving or while being driven to work, or whenever they want to watch, or sitting in the loop, whenever they want to watch, they can watch it, and they can watch whatever they want to watch. So what podcasters do is they do deep dive. They do deep dive long conversations. So it's long format. Long format was dying for a while because it was getting boring on television, and it was not getting its unique set of viewers. Now long format is coming back on screens, on platforms. Why? Because you are able to target unique viewers. So I have a base of more than 100 million people. So 120 million people are there who are consuming phones. We got 2 billion phones in a 140 crore population, 2 billion plus phones. So obviously, I should assume that there are more than 100 million viewers or consumers of content on their phones at whatever level of data and whatever level of, and it is at their languages. So when I have the base of 100 million, if I can catch 10 million people or 1 million people or 5 million people or 100,000 people, 500,000 people who want to watch a specific kind of content, then I will cater to that content. So not all podcasters work with all viewers. Some podcasters work with some set of viewers, some podcasters work with some set of viewers. So that's because you are able to create a certain level of popularity. There is a buzz, there is suddenly something, some algorithm pushes you, there is virality. But you are remembered for 1 or 2 episodes. Nobody watches all your episodes.
Yep.
Just like nobody watches every show of mine, but they know what they will get when they come to my show. And some of my shows get talked about, some of my debates get talked about. So that's how it is. A batsman doesn't go and score a century every time, but the centuries get talked about, and you are justified or you're seen about how consistent you are. How often do you get into 30s, 40s, 50s? What's your average? So that's how you are decided. So you have to have a certain level of consistency, but I don't think they're pinching markets from anybody, viewers from anybody. There are viewers and there is time to watch such content, and they can watch it. But podcasters cannot churn 24-hour content. They can churn out 1 hour in a day, 2 hours in a day, or
Okay.
1 hour in a week, 2 hours in a week. News is 18 hours a day, continuous content as a news platform.
Gotcha. Okay. But so Anand, I was wondering, how did you get into this news anchoring thing, right? Because did you know like 20 years ago that you were going to do this, or did you just luck into it?
Did you know 5 years ago that you're going to do this?
No.
Oh, it's the same thing. So I'm an MBA. I'm an MBA in marketing and finance from SIS College of Management Studies. Before that, I did my master's from Xavier's in Mumbai, and then I did my
Oh.
BCom. I got into advertising. I was in the business of communications because I wanted to be in advertising. And from there, I went on to I won Dream Job. So close-up Dream Job happened in 2004, 2005. And that's how I got into sports broadcasting. So from sports broadcasting, I started in ESPN Star Sports in Singapore. I was a media planner. I was a brand planner and media planner with Group M, handling a team of 5, 6 people and working on a portfolio of more than 100 crores of media spends. From there, I started as a rookie winner of a contest, of a reality TV contest on a sports channel. So I had to relearn a lot of things. There were people who started 5, 6 years ahead of me. I was at 27, 28. 5, 6 years into my corporate career, I had to start again. So what people learned in 5, 6 years, I had to learn in 6 months, 7 months. I had to prove myself. So I had my own stumbling blocks, my own challenges. Plus, but I also learned on the go. I had great mentors. So I started with ESPN Star in Singapore, came to 10 Sports and Z Sports in India, moved to Times Now with sports coverage. And after the 2011 Cricket World Cup victory,
Mhm.
Arnab and Times Now totally shifted away from sports and all linear, non-linear coverage and moved purely to hard news. So I moved into hard news. and thereafter it's a different story. It just happened. So sometimes you have to just go with the flow. But the reality is, Rishi, I enjoyed doing what I was doing. I still enjoy doing what I'm doing. As a storyteller, as someone, and being in news, being in this line, it's taught me a lot. I have read a lot, I have researched a lot because I had to work harder, I had to try harder, I read harder, I read more, I spoke to people more, and it also opened up my perspective. So I can only thank life for putting me down this path and constantly, you know, they say, no, the reboost and recharge happens at various points, and life just says, okay, this is where you need to go. I've just followed it, and it's happened.
Yeah, and talking about, I would like to take this opportunity to say that Take Three is one of the best podcasts out there, period, for me at least. So, and when you're talking about long format, like was in a low and now it's picked up. So, do you think that Take Three is also your show is also coming out of market forces, or it was just like you three decided to just go for it?
Oh, I think it was the determination of market forces. Well, I'll be very honest. The fact that me, Zaka, Rahul, we gel well, we're good friends or we're good colleagues, and we know what we want to get out of the show. Everybody has a point and a perspective, and everybody puts that out perfectly. And it's not about trying to put, and we just said, okay, let's just start doing it. And then there was the chemistry, there were issues that we picked up, and there were things that we can not say on a debate because there are others talking. So we were able to put out our thought process, and it's a nuanced thought process. Everybody has a point of view, everybody takes a position, and then we bring out a conversation. But we also wanted to be informative. We didn't want to do it just to stand up on the table and dance. That was not our intention. Our intention was to make it engaging, but more importantly, informative and based on facts. So you would not see us talk of the hat. We are not. We're talking of numbers, we're talking of a nuanced perspective, something which is educated. So that's what we decided to construct. But the format, we just thought this is how we should do it. So it was a collaborative effort. And they said, okay, podcast ka daur hai, kuch karte hain. Let's also try something. So we started it.
But Anand, my criticism is, why is it so irregular in that sense? Why are not recording more and more videos like podcasts like this?
The plan for it is once a week. So we're doing it once a week. So it's a weekly. So and we look at it from a television point of view as a weekend viewing, and digital point of view of saying we put it out once a week and let it circulate and let it do. Because too much of something is also not good. It's as an overdose, it's not good. People need to want to watch and wait for what you're putting out. If we do the frequency too often, we may also lose the fire and the enthusiasm to do it. Frankly, we don't even know how good it is, where it is, and all of that. We get feedback. A lot of people talk about it, tell us about it. But for us, we enjoy doing it,
Okay.
and so we want to continue to do it.
Okay.
That's how it is.
Yeah. And it's interesting. So I ask a lot of people, like, Anand is coming on the show, what should I ask? And my first question about positive news coverage was not mine, actually. It was my dad's. Right. And everyone just gives journalistic. So it's very sad that you are put into that journalistic box. So I wanted to break you out of it. And I wanted to ask you something that is very close to my heart, because I love talking about public policy, because I think public policy can change the quality of lives of millions of people, at least in India. And one policy that I don't like, one policy reform that people are asking about that I don't understand is bureaucratic reforms. Judicial reforms, you sort of understand. What is the problem? What possibly can we do to fix it? Backlog of cases and stuff like that. Bureaucratic reforms is something that I've looked at a lot of content, but I'm not able to understand what actually the problem is and what are the possible solutions. Like, what are other countries doing to solve these problems? So I wanted to know, not a journalistic perspective, but at least like an Indian citizen perspective of where do you stand with bureaucratic reforms? Do you think that, let's say there's a timeline 2030 tak karna hi padega and kya karna padega? Or do you think that maybe it's exaggerated a bit in YouTube or something like that?
No, what is the biggest problem that DOG is trying to weed out in the US under Trump administration? Bureaucracy, right? They believe there is bureaucracy that's steeped in. Huge amount of bureaucracy within CIA, huge amount of bureaucracy within the US government in Washington, DC. So this babugiri or red tapeism is not a broad brushing all bureaucrats in the same manner. No, There are very, very good bureaucrats. And I'll tell you, if Bharat is progressing, if it's moving forward, if things are getting done, it is because of the bureaucracy. It is because of committed IAS, IFS, IPS officers who are giving their heart and soul. They're working 18, 20 hours a day. They're not taking breaks. They're working hard. But within this bureaucracy, also what happens is, because there are so many layers, there are people who are happy to just push paper. And then there are people who, just to ensure that their weight is considered, will play with this entire paper and the metric and the writing of the policy and actually implementation of the policy. So sometimes everybody is so obsessed with crossing the T's and dotting the I's that you forget the larger, map altogether. And then sometimes you have the right people at the right places, and then a lot of times you have the right people at the wrong place or the wrong people at the right place. So it's like that. So that's where I think bureaucratic reforms are important. How do we make our bureaucracy more nimble? How do we make our bureaucracy less about paper pushing and more about ideating? How do we make our bureaucracy transparent and also shield them from corruption or deter them from corruption? So at the bureaucratic level, there is a certain amount of corruption which is there. Now, this whole corruption metric is also very interesting. Either all 10 people in that entire chain have to be corrupt, or all 10 have to be honest. Now, it's a reality. If two are honest and eight are corrupt, things will not happen. If eight are honest, two are corrupt, again things will not happen. Because at somewhere there will be a roadblock.
Okay.
And at some desk the files will pile up.
Okay.
Right. So I also feel very honestly, in our society, a certain level of corruption is kosher, is okay. 2%, 5% level corruption is okay, as long as the person does their job. Okay. So you are willing to look away for 2%, 5%, some basic level of corruption, as long as the person does not compromise on the quality, timeline, efficiency, efficacy of the work that is supposed to be done. That's where it is. It is when corruption becomes so huge and so obvious in your eyes, and that becomes obvious when work is not done, when lethargy creeps in on the work part of it, and there is just too much of this entire bureaucratic red tape which happens, and it is replaced with ego, saying your department bigger than my department, and if you've taken approval there, you have to take approval from me. How come you didn't come to me? So these are things which are problems, and this occurs across all nations. No nation is immune. In fact, I would like to say that our bureaucracy is far more efficient than some of the other bureaucracies in the world.
Wow.
Because they don't have the size that we have. They don't have the volumes that we have. They don't have the challenges of diversity that we have. They don't have the landmass to deal with that we have. So landmass, population, diversity, complications, and a democratic setup, a thoroughly democratic setup. You put all of this together, kaun sa desh hai? Nobody else is as big as us, right? But despite that, work gets done. So that's where it is. The inefficient bureaucrats tend to get suspended. If you're inefficient in a private company, you'll get sacked.
Yes.
The reforms that is important is that perform or perish should be corporatized, and bureaucracy also needs to be corporatized. I think that's where we need. So that people with good intent, people who want to do good work as bureaucrats should be allowed. And you should also have lateral entries with certain specified domains where you should have autocrats. You should have, technocrats. You should have, consultants, people from experts who would come into bureaucracy for a short period of time, enable the current setup, maximize the implementation, output, design, etc., execute it, and then get out. So so that process is something which we need to learn. So that's where we need to have policy reforms with bureaucracy.
And talking about sacking of bureaucrats, how difficult is it today? I hear it's very difficult.
See, they have made it in such a way, see, all netas will approve their pay hikes. All bureaucrats will approve whatever is in their interest. See, power sometimes corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Okay.
So that's a reality. Okay. So we have to be able to bring in safeguards that will stop us from doing that.
But again, coming back onto the bureaucratic reforms, Anand, it's again I think the problem is that it's not a well-defined problem. So how do you solve it? Like if I'm sitting in the government.
No, it's not. I don't think. I think the government has been working on it very strongly. I think corruption within the bureaucracy has been punished quietly. Bureaucrats have been shunted, shafted, etc. But the point is, at the end of the day, when you're going to try and bell the cat is going to resist. Okay, and it's the same bureaucrats who have to draft the law. So they have to be onboarded. Netas don't draft the law. The bureaucrats do. They don't word it. So, but I'll tell you, the bureaucracy has worked very cooperatively to try and not just, you know, the paper is gone. A lot of it is now it's digitalized. So this whole digitization has also happened because the bureaucrats have supported it, because the bureaucracies work. What is a PMO today? The PMO is a huge bureaucratic machinery that is working along with all the line ministries to get things done.
Okay.
So it's the bureaucracy that's also moved mountains. So many thought that bureaucracy is the biggest mountain to move, but I also believe that the bureaucrats of the country have also moved mountains. It's about intent. So you'll have bad fish. Few bad fish are okay. But when the bad fish outnumber the good fish, then you have a problem. So you have to then rejig the whole system so that there are always more number of good fish compared to the bad fish, and the bad fish get penalized, get pulled up, and they are not allowed a free run.
And also Sanjeev Sanyal has come on your show a lot of times. So he also has mentioned that a lot of process reforms are also happening. Maybe not structure. Yeah. So that is also maybe RDOGE
See,
basically.
when you streamline the process, you also you give the bureaucrat more time to think. Otherwise, most of the bureaucrat's job is to do paper pushing and doing paper kagzi work. Now, if you get the bureau and the bureaucrat has to tie the T's, has to knot the I, it has to dot the I's. It has to be done because that's how paperwork has to be. Government's paperwork has to be in place because they will always be subject to scrutiny going forward. The CNAG will only ask for paper or documentation. So documentation has to be perfect. But if I start streamlining the documentation process, rather than having 10 forms to fill, I make it into 2 forms. The time that is so much more time saved in the hand of the bureaucrat to be able to think towards implementation, towards creative, process and policy making and policy implementation. So it's a give and go both sides.
Gotcha.
You can't look at the problem only from one dimension. It's a multi-dimensional issue.
Gotcha. And talking about solving problems, so AI is also, deeply coming into our lives. I'm a software developer by trade, so I use AI every day. So I wanted to bring you back to journalism and how AI is going to, how is AI affecting your day to day, and how do you think its future in news to be?
Largely, AI is only helping us positively. AI is helping us, do translations faster, uh, language translations of sound bites, etc. AI is helping us also condense data and to try and identify duplicate data and delete it. So it is helping us clear our cache and free it down our memories because we are using so much of content. Uh, AI is also helping us script better. AI is also helping us be more creative and innovative with our headlines. How we write our lines, how we write our headlines. AI is also taking away a lot of the mundane work which would have to be done. Hindi to English translation on an interview, which is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So today it's an AI software that does it. All you need to do is a proper spell check in certain areas where pronunciation and phonetic wise it makes mistakes. So it is taking time away. The laborious gada mazuri which used to do, that is going away, or that is reducing because of AI. How better we can use it. Of course, there are better ways, and there is more that it can do. We are a network which has 14 channels, about 14 digital platforms, and thousands of gigabytes of content that comes in every day. And we are working very actively internally to see how AI can help us find out which is the best content to put out on air, which is the most relevant content for which platform and for that caters to which audience and which market. And that way our content streamlining is not just intuitive based on the experience of the editor and the editorial team, but there is an input that also says that this is what data shows, and it's data backed. So I look at AI as only that is going to help the news business rather than hurt it.
Okay. And moving on to so AI, but print media, right? And a lot of let's say my father's generation wanted me to ask you this. Where do you see? So I do not read hard paper newspapers. It's just tablet and phone. So where do you see the future of print media to be? Do you think it's a revival is possible, or do you think that digital will just take over completely over 10 years?
But what makes you think print is dead? Print is still active. You walk to an airport and you will still see people sitting there and reading newspapers. So there is a generation that still wants to read newspapers, and till that generation is alive, print will be alive. And if you look at it, how much can you read on a small screen? After some time, the form may change. It may not be paper anymore. It may be a digital newspaper. So it may just open up and the whole screen may become like a paper, and you know how you read Kindle. So Amazon said, okay, don't want to buy paperbacks, you buy the book and read on Kindle. So there are people who subscribe to newspapers online,
Yep.
e-papers. So they read e-papers, e-op-eds. So point is that the form may change, but the core crux of print will always. Tomorrow they may find another form which is not paper, which is another material, which is more cost effective, which is eco-friendly. You don't have to fell trees for it. It's a matter of time that it will happen.
Okay.
And it will become like a book, a small book, which opens up to become like a broadsheet, folds up to become like a tabloid, and then the format of the newspaper changes based on that. So you know you have to leave
Gotcha.
your imagination open for it. That you just subscribe to it once, and every day it will upload on its own. So, and where
Yeah.
you want to read it like a small tab, it becomes a tab. You open it, becomes like a tabloid. And you open it further, it becomes a broadsheet. But the content automatically paginates accordingly. So that's where AI is going to come into play. So I don't think print is dead. When radio came, when print came, they thought radio is dead. Radio is not dead. When TV came, they thought print is dead. Print is not dead. When digital came, they said TV will die. TV is not dead. There'll always be a space for it. I only believe that today, uh, earlier the screen was the platform, right? Today, screen is not the platform. Screen is just one of the mediums from where you can consume.
Mhm.
So that dynamic will change. That's what will
But
happen.
so okay, so talking about business models of news agencies, we're talking about that, right? So government ad revenues, I wanted to know what percentage, how heavily is a news agency like yours dependent on government ad revenues, and then how do you deal with the conflict of interest that comes up day to day, like?
Uh, News is a cost center. Okay. Uh, so it has to generate revenues.
Yep.
So when someone pays you money, will they say, I don't expect anything in return?
No.
So be it government or corporate, government or private, the ask will be similar, right?
Yes.
So as long as news is a cost center and is dependent on revenues, unless subscribers are willing to pay news or pay money, you pay 1 rupee a day. I'm asking you to pay only 1 rupee a day for subscribing to CNN News 18. Okay. And if you are able, if we have 5 million followers on our social media, and if out of the 5 million, even 3 million start paying us 1 rupee a day to subscribe to our platforms, we have a steady revenue model, which in the sense makes it democratized, run by people, for the people, of the people. Till the time the subscriber is willing, you're ready to pay say, $650 for Netflix, $1,000 for this and all of that, but you're not willing to pay 1 rupee a day, 50 paisa a day for a news channel. So then I have to depend on sources who will give me revenue. So now, whether it's a political party or a corporate, they will always say, okay, we'll pay you money, but terms and conditions apply. But having said that, they are not the types who will say you can't play, you have to be totally biased, you have to be. All their expectation is that don't pursue us with an agenda. You do the news and put our point of view. I think largely most of them are like that.
The problem that I have is with the outrage in India, even with the electoral bonds thing, is that same thing happens in the West as well. But somehow we are just putting ourselves to a different standard than the West and saying that, oh, we need to do better. I'm like, the West does the same
So,
thing.
see, electoral bonds in our country, lobbying is not legal. And we have not openly said that any corporate can donate to any corporate, any political party or whatever. But
Gotcha.
please, but reality is that they need to work together. Okay, to get things done. I need money to run my channel. You need money to run your platform. An advertiser needs a platform to advertise, to sell his clothes, to make money there. A political party needs donations to fund the party and its affairs because they are also a cost center, they are not a revenue center. So any NGO also needs to raise funds because they are an NGO, they are not for profit. So all of them need to raise money, and they will raise money from those who have money. And those who have money, when they give it to someone who needs the money, they will come and say terms and conditions apply. So it's reality. Electoral bonds, actually, frankly, when the court stopped electoral bonds, it allowed, it opened the floodgates for black money to come into politics.
Exactly.
Correct. We hope that the Supreme Court realizes this, and I hope that the government presents a white paper which says that when we had electoral bonds, even black money was turning into white and it was tax-paid money. And there was tax and revenue to it. Uh, and because you have cancelled electoral bonds, I hope they go back and show to the Supreme Court that at least two, three electoral cycles, 2024 Lok Sabha election, Maharashtra election, this one, they are able to numerically go and show how much of black money came into the market. So if you want to deter black money, so here you're talking about, and you're worried about anonymity. I'm not worried about anonymity. I'm worried about 100 crores of unaccounted money coming into the market. I'm not worried about the anonymity of the of the donor. I am worried about the anonymity of the money, where it is coming from. I would rather know that there is money and it's white and it is converted to white money and it's tax paid money and it's part of the official channel, rather than it is unaccounted for money. Here now, what is the situation? Electoral bonds are gone. I not only do not know who the donor is, I also do not know
Who
how
the
much
money?
money. No, how much money and where the money is coming from. I have no clue. See, earlier what happened? Because there was a trail, because that money had to be deposited in an account, right? किसी को
Yep.
तो record करना पड़ेगा. So the SBI had the data of who's donated that money. The courts could have just said that once in 2 years you have to put the details out. Post facto डाल दो, कोई बात नहीं. बट 2 साल में एक बार तुमको डालना पड़ेगा. तो
Hmm.
24 का डेटा 26 में डालना पड़ेगा, 26 का डेटा 28 में डालना पड़ेगा, 28 का डेटा 30 में डालना पड़ेगा. ऐसे आप पब्लिकली डिस्क्लेयर कर दो, कोई बात नहीं. लेकिन ये तो मत करो कि मैं कर ही नहीं सकता. अब क्या किया आपने? पूरा यू ओपनड अप द मार्केट फॉर ब्लैक मनी. And that is the biggest problem. My biggest issue with the court's decision, and very respectfully, is that they put a stay and cancelled electoral bond. They shouldn't have. They should have put a mechanism to make electoral bonds more transparent into the people, because
Yep.
electoral bonds were ensuring that white money, tax-paid money, accounted for money came into politics.
Which is what the problem that they were initially trying to solve with the electoral bonds. Arun Jaitley but yeah, okay. It happens. So Anand, I know you have to run, but I'll take the final question here.
Sure.
And again, this is also very close to my heart. I would say is about the World Press Freedom Index. And there was a lot of debate when it came out. India is ranked in press freedom below Afghanistan and Hong Kong, which makes no sense. But okay, we have to make sense of it. My problem is that it leads to monetary consequences. A lot of people have mentioned that these indexes from VDEM or from Europe lead to monetary consequences of FIIs coming or FDIs coming into the country because they're looking at these indexes. So my question is, when you looked at the World Press Freedom Index and when you looked at India's ranking, what was your reaction and what do you think about how serious these indexes are?
Those people, you should go and ask them and figure out who VDEM is, who these entities are, who are the people who are writing it, and ask them common sense that a person who's investing money because of press freedom in Afghanistan, will they put FDI in Afghanistan? These investors, how much of FDI inflows are happening into our country and how much is happening in Afghanistan? So the credibility of these reports itself now is dodgy. See, the people who are writing these reports are itself being exposed as motivated. And एक बात बताओ, you are a podcaster yourself. How many hajar podcasters are there in India? Have they been asked to shut shop?
No.
There are 2,500 publications, 2,500 TV channels. More than 4,500 publications across the country. And there are so many more political parties across the country. Where is press freedom going anywhere? Those people who are disgraced, those people who are pursuing a known agenda, they are still allowed to ply their wares, उनको बंद तो नहीं किया. Can I do the same thing in China? Can I do the same thing in China, in the US? Can I do the same thing in Pakistan? Can I do it in Afghanistan? तो अगर उनका प्रेस फ्रीडम हमसे ऊपर लिखा है तो फिर उस रिपोर्ट को ही समझना चाहिए. एंड इफ दैट पर्सन whoever is investing money into our countries based on that report, then I don't think I want that person's money because that person is not using buddhi.
No, but it's not just one index, right? There are multiple indexes, and they may not necessarily invest in Afghanistan, but they may deter money from India, is what I'm saying.
You tell me, are FDI inflows going down or going up?
They're going up.
Is our nation progressing or not? At the end of the day, the investor wants to see where the market is. It does not matter what one report or the other report says. Where are all these people who made all these reports? Are they in power today or have they been voted out?
Yeah.
So, an idea whose time has come cannot be shunted off. Bharat as an idea, Bharat as a nation, Bharat as its entity, and Bharat's rightful place in history and in the world is here. It's now. The next 75 years belong to us. And if we work hard together in the next 75 years, concerted to the fact that we want to project our country and we want to take our country up, its people up, and rise as a nation, be rest assured for the next 1,000 years we'll continue to do.
Okay.
That's the potential that we have as Bharatiya. So let's not bother about what some institute funded by some other dodgy entity, written by some dodgy entity, sit there and preach, because their nations and their own existence is in doldrums currently. We are only rising, we are only doing well. No, okay. Don't give it too much of credence.
Yeah, Anand. On that note, I would like to thank you for coming on the show. I hope to get you back again, and it would be great if you could share this when I share it as well on my social media.
Sure, I'll do that. All the very best,
Bye-bye.
Rishi. Keep
Thank you.
continuing
Bye-bye.
to good work.